Got some perogies and bacon on. It's always good for supper. This is a 2008 KRF750 Kawasaki brute force thing. V-twin, liquid cooled, single overhead cam, etc, etc. It's making a knocking sound. You ever get motors that are making knocking sounds? It's not always like a death rattle in it. It's not always the end of the world. A lot of times it's peripheral things. It could be the starter motor. It could be worn lifters. It could be all kinds of things that are peripheral to the main crankshaft, piston, etc., camshaft. So before being drawn into a panic-induced frenzy and trailing your beloved machine off to the dealership and spending a fortune, be aware that there's a lot of things that'll make an engine sound like it's on its last legs when in actual fact it's not. This particular one has a starter issue where it's ate off the teeth, probably from backfiring. It could be when the battery's a little weak and it's cold, like, you know, it gets cold up here in Canada and it's like -20 and the battery doesn't have enough juice. You know, it may misfire. And the problem with V-twins, one of the things you do, and singles too, is you backfire tremendously hard, and it'll take out, you know, woodruff keys that hold on the flywheel. It'll take out teeth on the flywheel. Like this one, this KRF750, it was, when you started, it would knock and knock and knock, and then it would stop. And what it was the ring gear spinning around, and when it finally stopped spinning, it would stop knocking because there was a space where the teeth were missing, and it would hit the starter, and then it took a few rotations for this thing to stop spinning, and therefore every time it hit the space it would knock, and it sounded quite horrendous actually. So yeah, they've upgraded the teeth on these. Here's a newer one, earlier one. You can see it's almost twice the width. So when it would backfire, it would just take the teeth off this thing. And plus it's not charging, so it needs a new stator. And they wanted me to put headlights in it, so that's what I'm doing to this. But anyways, starter issues. You hear a knock on your KVF, don't panic. It might not be the end of the world. I'm going to take it apart. So what happens with these big V-twins is it has an electric start only, and when the battery is a little low, and it doesn't quite have the oomph to crank it over, it'll rob a lot of the juice from the ignition coil, and it won't leave enough left over to spark properly. And so what happens is it backfires. It'll kick back, and a couple things might happen. This woodruff key, which is right here on the crank, will usually shear off, or when it kicks back violently, this one-way starter takes a beat. This is the one I took off of it. And as you can see, there's a tooth missing there, and there's a few teeth missing here. And so I've replaced it, and later models had a thicker, ring gear, probably because this was happening a fair bit, and it's like twice as thick, so it's probably a good upgrade if you have one of these. This is just spare engine, not a spare engine but a parts engine. I got a few parts engines kicking around and whatnot. So anyways, just thought I'd share that. It's like, if it's so important with these modern FI vehicles, fuel injected vehicles, that you keep a good battery in it and a good charge. Keep it charged in the winter, because it causes all kinds of havoc. It robs the necessary electricity from the sensitive electronic components, and it causes spikes in voltage, and just wreaks havoc on things. So keep a good battery in these. You just need a good battery. That's the reality of them. So there's a stator in this old KRF750. I don't really like these machines. They're really nice to ride. They ride really nice. I hardly see any over about 3,000, 4,000 kilometers. Usually get up around 5, 6, and then the engine pops. They're intensely complicated on the inside. They got 4 cam chains on them. They got a plain bearing on one end of the crankshaft, and then they have a regular bearing on the other end. They're susceptible to if you don't change the oil a lot on them, you know, do the maintenance. And I mean, obviously you should do the maintenance, but you know, compared to like some other machines that are more forgiving, you know, I mean, maybe these got oil pumps that are a little low pressure, I'm not too sure, but yeah, you don't see many high mileage ones. The 650 Prairie's done a little better, but, and they're incredibly expensive to rebuild, of course. They're about $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to do a proper build on one of these. So they don't really lend themselves well to practicality. For example, like with the Honda old air cooled things, you see high mileage on those, but they were a much more robust engines. But yeah, KVF750, be aware of that. High turnover rate on the engine department. And if you ever see one with snorkels on it, snorkels, rad, relocate up above the rack, and you're looking for a used quad and you see that, anything with snorkels, rad, relocate, people went swimming with it, just avoid it like the plague. The differentials fill up, the little hoses come off the diffs eventually. They get cut, branches knock them off, and then the diffs fill up with water. And they got a multi-clutch disc in the front diff, and so they're really susceptible to water damage. The engines, same thing. Of course, like with any engine, I mean, these aren't amphibious marine grade products, obviously, but you know, some people think they are. Yeah, so, and they're not very robust engines to begin with. They're really cool to ride when they're running nice. They're very comfortable. They're independent suspension, a lot of them. Some are solid axle, but most of them are independent. They had a 750, 650. They also had a little 360 and a 400, but these are the most popular models. So, and they're bristling with all kinds of unnecessary electronics that control the 4x4 and you know, other gizmos and relays and this sort of thing. So anyways, that's just my 2 cents on these. I fixed a lot of these. I've repaired a lot of them, and they're popular. People love them, but yeah, they're not that great. So anyways, hope that helps. Starter issues as usual, and have a good day. Thanks. Bye-bye.